number of schools in Thurrock which are in need of significant building, and Gable Hall is, and I know this, seen by the authority as being one of those that is still reasonably secure. My concern is that Gable Hall is increasingly becoming less fit for purpose, and our quality provision is going to be compromised within a short period of time. And to give you examples of that, we have a dining hall currently, just from the point of view of the facilities available to the students in the school. We have a dining hall which can seat about 100, and there are 1,230 kids, and so they have to eat outside. That in these days, in this day and age, is something really that shouldn't be happening. We're a performing arts college, and yet music has to be taught in a number of ordinary classrooms around the school. The two-storey block has corridors so narrow you can get only one abreast down it, so single file each way down it. In terms of the technology, we're a vocational college now, specialist college, and our technology block is I'd like to say limited, but in fact it's ridiculous in terms of what it can offer new technologies these days, and particularly from the vocational perspective. And so there are many, many issues now that are beginning to affect the school adversely. If we could become an academy, I would jump at the chance, absolutely jump at the chance. If I could secure building from BSF, again I would jump at the chance. But increasingly, one of the problems we face is the footprint of the school is getting smaller and smaller. In other words, we're beginning to build further and further out, we're encroaching on our own boundaries, and that's going to pose a problem. In terms of the East Thurrock master plan, I was intensely irritated and saddened at the same time by the fact that I was not aware that that plan was going to be published in the format that it has been published, involving building on Gable Hall land. We do all we can presently to accommodate our neighbours. Years ago we built a sound bank at one side. The children do not play on the playing fields during break time or lunchtime, even during the summer, in order to avoid unnecessary noise for the neighbours. And yet the plan means that on the south aspect, the building would come almost up to the school building itself. That is not a viable option, it's not a viable plan. It does nothing to address the shortcomings in the school itself, as I've just outlined. It offers the provision of a sixth form opposite. I do not want a sixth form block opposite. We are well on the way in terms of planning and discussion with the LSC about a sixth form. It is going to be a joint sixth form between ourselves, St Clair's and Hassenbrook, and we're already looking at building possibilities associated with that, be that centrally one building or indeed three different buildings on each school. If that were to be the case, I would wish it to be incorporated clearly here on site as opposed to across the road. And in many, many ways, that proposal, which my parents believe already has the sanction of the school, because I've received countless letters and telephone calls from my parents assuming that that was the case, and so they have responded positively, believing that. That proposal, in my view, is a non-starter. It does not offer any advantage to Gable Hall. Other proposals about building on Greenbelt, I think, need to be discussed and discussed openly. I am not per se, I'm not happy with building on Greenbelt, like everybody else. If you can avoid it, I think we should, as much as we possibly can. So where there is brown belt sites and we can develop those, they should be taken as a priority, an automatic priority. However, with some of the figures I've seen in terms of the increasing housing within Thurrock, I cannot see how a building on Greenbelt is avoidable. Now, if it is at some stage in the future inevitable, I would much rather see Greenbelt building with an educational or community dimension associated with it, rather than not. And so if there is going to be building on Greenbelt local to Gable Hall, I think it's entirely reasonable that we see if we can accommodate Gable Hall on the green belt And in fact, part of that greenbelt accommodation will be our own playing fields, therefore maintaining the greenbelt, and in fact enlarging the footprint of the school in the greenbelt, at the same time enhancing those facilities that we so desperately need here in Gable Hall to maintain a 21st century educational provision for our youngsters, preparing them for the future, and also offering greater community access and usage of the school.
But having expressed your opinion here, do you feel that you're, regarding the consultation process or any input, that you're on the outside looking in?
Yes, I mean, quite frankly, I do, because I'm a head teacher of a school. I'm an individual simply voicing an opinion as to what is good for the school. I feel that I feel annoyed with the Development Corporation because had it consulted prior to publishing this plan and it had sought the views of the governors and myself on this, then it would not have put us at loggerheads or potential loggerheads with our local community. Because if our local community look at the plan and think that is a much better option than the previous plan, which was so publicly ridiculed and ripped up, which it probably deserved to be. But that's another issue. But if the people are looking at it as from the perspective of it's either that or this, then this is a much better option than the previous one in the eyes of the vast majority of people, and so they'll vote for this. But they'll vote for it not knowing the fact that it is not an option in our view. And bearing in mind the fact that the governors actually own the land, they are most reluctant to see the land being sold off for building purposes and additional land being tacked on the side. And so that, by implication, sets us at loggerheads with our local community, and that should never be the intention. We've got to work with our local community. We are the community. We are the centre of the community. That's the whole point about schools and educational provisions and institutions, schools.
So is there any solution?
It's a good question. I think we need to go back to the drawing board. I think there needs to be far more detailed discussion between the interested parties. I think there needs to be far more open and free discussion between the Development Corporation and Thurrock Local Authority, Thurrock Council. And if it does involve any development or redevelopment of land, then it seems to me only quite reasonable that those that actually have ownership of the land or control of the land should be brought into that discussion prior to any plan being put out. I mean, what is the point of putting a plan out when the people that actually are instrumental in delivering it in terms of releasing the land are against it? I mean, compulsory purchase orders might be the order of the day, but I think they're going to have a little difficulty purchasing compulsorily school land. The DCSF, I know, because I've spoken to the DCSF, have a very, very clear and strong view about that. And that seems to me the way forward. I mean, if we're going to develop Thurrock, and we need to develop Thurrock as part of the Thames Gateway development, then I think it needs to be done openly. It needs to be done in terms of looking for the future needs of Thurrock. We obviously want to improve Thurrock from the point of view of it becoming a high-skilled, highly technological centre. The ideas about bringing the HE into Thurrock and the FE into Thurrock is a brilliant idea. I totally support that. And that should be connected with the further development of Thurrock. And so Dubai Ports, for example, literally on our doorstep there, needs to be taken into context about the growing of that with the transport infrastructure, with the housing infrastructure, with the educational provision, with medical provision, with social services provision, etc. It has to be taken as a whole in terms of you're developing an area or a town or a city, not in isolation. And certainly those people that are responsible for agreeing those plans need to talk to each other and talk to each other regularly. And if there's any discussion or dispute between the Development Corporation and Thurrock Council or other stakeholders, then that's the opportunity for that to happen. But at the moment, I'm not aware that I've been invited to any meeting with Thurrock Council or Thurrock Development Corporation to discuss any of this.